Hey guys, I'm back. Not with a video I want to make, but a video I feel like I need to make right now. Now some of you may have seen the video made by whatever about a channel that makes videos involving hamsters. Now, first of all, I feel like we need to say this, but we are civilized people. We don't threaten anyone, we don't go, being dicks. Just a little disclaimer, because I feel like sometimes we can get a little toxic. And we really shouldn't, we don't need to. Now, the channel is I Chose Hamster. Bit of a weird name, probably butchered it. But it's a smaller channel, really a few thousand bigger than mine, so almost a fair fight this time. But it is a bit older. It has been uploading videos since 2010 at least. I do know some videos have been deleted, I can tell from Social Blade, but beyond that, that's about it. That's all I know, really, about the... Now, this man, he takes hamsters and he puts them in very small cages, which he sticks underwater to make underwater habitats. So, really, on the surface, pun intended, this is pretty weird. Just to begin with, very weird to do. What's the point of this? What do you gain from this? What is there to win from this, really? I don't know. Now, of course, in theory, making an underwater habitat is not really a problem. You can theoretically create a perfectly fine underwater habitat. It shouldn't be much of an issue, really, except for one major thing. First, you'd need a container big enough to hold the water, and then you need a container inside that, which is big enough to support a decent life for this hamster. That needs to be a pretty big tank to begin with. Now, before we dive any deeper into this channel and its content, I should probably put a little disclaimer and information that he massively disagrees with probably anything I have to say, but his arguments are pretty shit, and we're gonna get into that in the end. I think the first thing we really need to do is to have a look at the habitats or the enclosures that he puts the hamsters in and sticks underwater. Now, as I said, to make this work, you need a big tank, so you can put a smaller tank into it where you can have the hamster. Which means you're gonna have size problems, and his builds definitely show that. So here, in this one, we have two hamsters in a double-decker. I've seen cakes bigger than that, by the way, so not really surprisingly a good cage. Or how about, this one?
As you can see, it keeps the atmosphere inside the habitat breathable. That makes for happy, healthy hamster nuts.
Or this one? Now this is the bigger one he's made. Like 2 boxes. So as we can all see, except for the one with the tunnel, they are pretty damn small. Some of them don't even have a wheel. Now I have to point out though that those are the older videos. The newer videos he has put in a wheel, which at best is tiny. Most of these cages are basically like 3 lengths the size of the animal, and one was even smaller, which is tiny for anybody. Having something. Imagine not getting anywhere else than a place that's 3 lengths the size for you, and then you get a treadmill. That's it. That's all you get. That's how you get your exercise. Isn't that just awesome? And by the way, this treadmill is too small, but we'll get into that later. These are hamsters. These has been observed, depending on species. Now, as far as I can tell, he's using dwarf hamsters. They've been observed to travel about 5.5 miles every single night, or 9 kilometers. Every single day. Now, this is an animal that weighs about 20 grams. 20-25. Now, if we were to size comparison us with a hamster, we are 3,000 times bigger. We would have to travel from London to Los Angeles, back again, and then another trip to Los Angeles. And you'd still have a couple of miles to spare. That's how massive an amount this is. And now imagine having a wheel about this big. That's what you get. That's what you get to run on. The problem with these tiny wheels are, of course, to run on them. Even the flat ones, for the animal to be able to actually run on it, it has to kind of arch its back. Now I'm a little hyper, so it has, instead of running like this, the back would be like this. It's more like, you know, this. I don't know if you guys can see it. It just creates a curve, and that's not a good thing. That's for an animal this size, and it would be like a dock worker constantly picking up a box that's too heavy, which effectively means you're breaking the animal's back in the long run. And that's why there's a problem with that size. Not to mention that they, you know, can only run on that. There is no equivalent of getting a different, you know, impression for the animal. The animal only ever gets to run on one thing and gets to see one thing. It doesn't get to run in one end where one smell is and to another end where a different smell is. It's just the same thing. It becomes very monotone, and I remember in old zoos this was a massive problem, which is why you've seen old zoos that are still in operation and that gives a crap are rebuilding their old enclosures. Most of them already have, because it creates stereotypical behavior, and that's a terrible thing. Another massive problem I can tell on all of these builds is they're very, you know, not tall. Even admits that they're shorter than the minimum. And I can tell you why this is a problem. I would say the minimum is even also a massive problem. This is a burrowing species. They build burrows and nests underground, so you should let them get the ability to actually build something to go underground. Putting in a hide and just be like, there you go, there's your cage, you can run into that, does not equate to that for this animal. It does not trigger it that way. You really need a lot of bedding for these animals to succeed in, you know, life and have a good life, because otherwise they don't get that engagement really. So the true problem of his designs lie in the simple fact that they effectively deny the animal its natural behavior by simply not providing it. And the small bit he does provide it will effectively shorten its lifespan because you are ruining its back. He doesn't see that problem, but that's part of the problem really. This is the actual true problem with his builds. It is not the fact they're underwater. He could build a massive one underwater and I genuinely wouldn't have a problem with it. I would call it stupid and risky, but in theory it could work. But he is not providing the animals with the necessary stimulation for their, you know, well-being really. And I find that problematic because everybody focuses on the water, and that basically means everybody's falling into this trap of letting him argue his way around it, stating that, you know, you can build this. It can be fine. You know, it's like us in a submarine. It is possible. And now just to prove that these hamsters are just a means to an end for him. He does not care about them. He made a video where he shows these are basically his lab rats, and he's the mad scientist. He even wears a white coat when he shows himself. He created a tube which he then strapped onto a drone, and then he's put a hamster in this tube and sent it up 400 feet into the air, clearly not caring about the safety of this animal, because first of all, that is extremely stressful for an animal that lives on the ground, to be sent 400 feet into the air.
"100 feet and holding." There she is at 200 feet. You can barely see her, but she's up there, choosing the impossible at 400 feet.
There is no reason for him to create this gadget. There is no point to it except making a video. Now, lately he's created this thing called the Mega Habitat. It's this one. He thinks this is amazing, this is incredible, this is the best design that's ever been made and the best place for a hamster. And I call it the torture chamber because he still doesn't really have the necessities for a hamster. It's still too small, it's still useless, it's still no bedding whatsoever except that little corner there, which is like the size of a freaking hand. It's nothing. Now, if you want to build a good hamster enclosure, I would say, from experience, 4 feet long, 2 feet deep, 2 to 3 feet high. Why is it has to be so big? To give it the animal the ability to run around without physically having to need the wheel. It will be given a wheel, of course, you always need to give it a wheel, so it has more of a place to run in. And this size provides it with ample room on the bottom, and it provides you with ample opportunity to make it 2-layer, so there's more room for it to run around, investigate, smell, hide food. The bottom layer, of course, has to be quite, high, because this is where the burrowing material will be, all the bedding. I would say at least 7 to 10 inches, about this much. That would be a good amount, because there it would be able to bury down, it can make a burrow, and it can make tunnels. I've seen many of my wife's hamsters do this and they love it, and they hate her when she changed the bedding, because then they have to build it all over again. But it is necessary sometimes, of course, to maintain these places, especially because they tend to hide all their food all over the place. Another important thing you always have to do is, these animals can get very hot very, very fast, and most of them, especially this species he's using, lives in a colder region. So you want to provide it with a cold spot. Now, we use very often small marble plates. They're pretty cheap to get our hands on, something that boomers used to have in their houses, so they're everywhere and nobody wants them. And they're quite effective, actually, and if it's a heat wave, you just stick it in the fridge and leave it there for a few hours and pull it out, and then there you go. Nice and cool. While I was stumbling down into this rabbit hole of not very nice treatment of animals, I heard him mention a Twitch stream. And I have a little look around, found the link, and he basically has a 24-hour Twitch stream running where people can go watch the hamster underwater, and he has 1,700 followers. Now that doesn't mean jack shit on Twitch, because what you want to know is how many subscriptions does you have. Only Twitch will know that, and himself, so we can't tell how much. But if we say 20%, then it's 170 people that gave him at least $5 a month. This of course increases his revenue, as most people mentioned. He makes about $1,100 from Patreon every month. He has 227 people giving him money every month to do this. He even admits to the whole mad scientist part by calling himself a mad scientist. This is disturbing on so many levels, and all this just helps emphasizes that the animals are props in his messed up fantasies about, living underwater and sending rodents flying. I do not understand this at all, why this is something he wants to do, but it disturbs me that there are people that are willing to give him well over $1,000 a month to do it, to keep him doing it. I think he's going to continue putting animals into this traumatic experience, and he is going to continue with his channel, and he's not gonna stop. He does provide enough for them to survive, but that's about it. They are probably not having the best life they could have, and most hamsters honestly don't. They're being treated like shit by parents and kids alike, because it's a wildly misunderstood animal. But claiming you're doing it the right way while doing shit like this, that's just wrong, man. It's just wrong, and you should really fix that. So that's it for today's video. Don't forget to comment, like, dislike, subscribe. You know the drill. And until then, I'll see you next time.